Your atoms suddenly stop vibrating. Absolute zero hits your body instantly. You don't just feel a chill, thermal energy vanishes. The fundamental dance of matter ends. You aren't just frozen, you have effectively exited the state of being a functional, living physical object. Temperature is just the average kinetic energy of particles. Zero vibration means zero temperature. The air surrounding your skin realizes there is a massive thermal void. Heat rushes in from the atmosphere. This isn't a gentle breeze, it is a violent thermal crash. The pressure difference between your frozen shell and the warm air creates a localized atmospheric vacuum. Physics hates a vacuum. Nature decides to fix this mistake with extreme prejudice. At absolute zero, the laws of classical physics resign. Quantum mechanics take over. Your atoms lose their individual identities. They overlap and merge into a single giant quantum wave. This is a Bose-Einstein condensate. You are no longer a person made of cells and organs. You are now a single macroscopic quantum object. Electrons stop orbiting nuclei. Chemical bonds, which rely on electron sharing, simply cease to exist. The molecular glue holding your DNA and proteins together evaporates. Your body doesn't break or shatter. It loses the very concept of structural integrity. The biological blueprint of a human being is replaced by a singular, cold, shimmering, mindless blob of quantum probability. This is mostly fine for a millisecond. Then the surrounding air remembers it is actually quite warm. Thermal energy is a greedy force. It wants equilibrium. The atmosphere decides to dump every available joule of heat into your quantum blob body. It happens instantly. The temperature gradient is now the steepest in the known universe. Heat transfer occurs via conduction and convection at speeds that defy intuition. The frozen quantum mass undergoes a phase transition so violent it mimics a detonation. This isn't melting, it is a thermal explosion. The sudden expansion of gas and the release of stored potential energy create a shock wave. The air around you is compressed so rapidly it turns into incandescent plasma. This plasma expands outward in a perfect sphere. Your former self is now the epicenter of a miniature supernova. The sound is a deafening crack that shatters every window within 3 city blocks. The surrounding pavement liquefies. Steel beams warp and buckle. You are no longer a quantum blob. You are now a rapidly expanding, blinding cloud of superheated ions and absolute, total regret. The shockwave doesn't stop at the windows. The displaced air creates a low-pressure zone that sucks everything back toward the center. This is the inward collapse. The debris from the shattered buildings is pulled into the plasma core. The heat is so intense that the oxygen in the air begins to fuse. Not nuclear fusion, but chemical reactions that strip electrons from everything in sight. The resulting firestorm consumes all available fuel in the immediate vicinity. Every car, tree, and mailbox is vaporized in a microsecond. The ground beneath the blast site is turned into a glass crater. The atmosphere is left scarred by a column of ionized gas stretching into the stratosphere. To an observer a mile away, you looked like a brief blinding flash of white light. To a physicist, you were a very efficient, if unplanned, demonstration of thermodynamics and quantum state collapse. The local weather patterns are permanently altered by the sudden thermal spike. Birds in the area simply stop flying. Now we consider the long-term atmospheric contamination. The vaporization of a human body, several cars, and a chunk of city street releases a cocktail of aerosols into the upper atmosphere. These particles seed clouds with unnatural efficiency. Rain begins to fall, but it is not normal rain. It is a chemical slurry of calcium, carbon, and trace amounts of whatever you had for lunch. This rain falls across the tri-state area. It doesn't kill people, but it makes the grass a very strange shade of mauve. The government sends in a hazardous materials team to investigate the crater. They find nothing but a perfectly smooth circle of obsidian and a single melted shoe. The incident is logged as an unexplained atmospheric anomaly. The energy release was small compared to a nuke, but the precision was terrifying. The physics community spends the next decade arguing about whether you actually existed or if the universe simply suffered a momentary glitch in the matrix. The debate is heated. Papers are published. Massive grants are awarded. The only thing that remains of your existence is a small, dusty footnote in a graduate textbook about the dangers of absolute zero. So if your atoms stop vibrating, you don't just become a popsicle. You become a quantum singularity that triggers a thermal explosion. You effectively trade your life for a very small, very bright flash of light and a glass hole in the ground. The process is instantaneous. There is no pain because nerves require moving ions to send signals. Your consciousness ends before the first photon even leaves your skin. You simply stop being. The universe continues. The math remains consistent. It is quite efficient. Unfortunately, the local municipality does not view this as an act of God. Because you destroyed 3 city blocks and a historic mailbox, your estate is sued for $400 million. The court rules that quantum collapse is not a valid legal defense for property damage. Next time, we wonder what happens if you try to eat a neutron star with a plastic spoon. Subscribe to the What If Club. Stay curious. Stay very, very far away.